And whenever he and I had our conversation, it just hit me in a way that I've never been hit before in my whole entire life, that I'm doing exactly what it is I'm supposed to be doing.
Welcome to Biz Stories Shared, where storytellers share their inspiration, motivation, some disappointments, and how they applied the lessons that led them to success. Stories are gifts. Listen as these gifts are shared. Now, here is your host, Charlotte Plott.
Hello, storytellers. This is Charlotte Plott here, and I'm thrilled to bring you our guest today, Tara Majuta. Tara, are you ready to be a storyteller?
Yes, I am.
Tara Majuta was born in the dusty sands of southern Arizona. She launched her business, Tara Majuta Books, in May of 2013. As an entrepreneur, she focuses on helping authors and other creative people structure their craft into a business. She writes mystery and dark romances, including her first published title, The Fascinating Files of Claudia Brodstad. Tara, I've given our listeners just a little summary about you. Will you take a minute now and tell us about you personally, because we want to get to know you better, and then give us an overview of your business?
Oh, me personally, that's always an interesting thing for people to ask. I'm pretty much an open book. I consider myself to be a storyteller as a writer and in my entertainment business per se. I always loved acting and anything that involved putting on a character or a face in order to be someone else. And so I moved that away from the screen and turned it into actual literature, which has been something that I find really exciting. And it is my purpose. So I do it for myself as well as for others. And in my business, it's my goal to empower authors as well as small business owners to use words to get their views across so that they can help change the world. And that's been my main focus ever since starting my business not that long ago. I've been working really hard with a lot of really fantastic people and making sure that they have whatever they need in order to get their voice out there. And apart from that, the other side of my business obviously is writing and selling my own books. So I've been very ambitious with making sure that that happens as well.
Well, I was really fascinated when you described a little bit about how you transitioned from you being, did you say on the screen or in front of people, and then now you are writing. So was that an easy transition for you?
It was. I wasn't as active into theater. I was very active whenever I was a child, but as I got older, I never did any plays or anything. But I always walked out into the world as if I was stepping onto the stage. And as different characters would come to me, obviously I didn't want to look like a crazy person and trying to be different people to everybody. So storytelling definitely transitioned into actually writing books and being able to create multiple characters at once instead of trying to be multiple people at once.
That's really interesting, and I like the way you described stepping out onto the stage, because that probably has helped you a lot in the stories that you write, because you in a way became those people. Is that right?
That's very true. I consider myself to be all of my characters, even the bad ones. The the basis of creating a positive or a negative story is dependent on its characters. So if you have characters that are considered quote unquote flat, then people are not going to want to read your books or to watch your movies, so on and so forth. So for me, my stories always begin with the character, and usually it's my main character who comes first. And once I have an identity for them, including a name, then their story starts to come to me as they begin to tell me what exactly happened to them and why.
Oh, that really is fascinating. Well, I'm going to have to get your book, which is titled again, The Fascinating Files of Claudia Brodstad.
Yes.
Well, congratulations to you for getting that published also. Well, now here at Biz Stories Shared, we start every show with our guest's favorite quote. Tara, what's your favorite quote? And would you please tell us how you apply this to your everyday thinking?
My favorite quote is, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something else is far more important." And as an entrepreneur, it's very important for us to realize that we cannot let our emotions drive our lives or our business. You can still be as afraid as if you want to be afraid, but you still have to go out there and continue to try to tackle your goals, even if you don't think you can attain them. And that's been something that has followed me ever since I graduated from high school. I've used that quote to help me get through a lot of the hard times as a student and as a young adult, all the way up until went 100% into my own business.
Wow. Would you repeat that quote, please? It's a powerful one.
It's, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something else is far more important."
Wow. Thank you for that. That is a very powerful one. Then you applied that to your life as you stepped out from when you were in school. You started applying that quote to
I
have that
did.
courage.
I did. Once I graduated high school, I started applying that quote because it was a brave new world for me to go off to college and then graduate college and try to build a life for myself. And the main portion of my life that has actually really manifested that quote has been since I started my own business, because it's a big transition going from corporate America into being 100% responsible for your future. It's very daunting, but if you realize it's okay to be afraid while you're doing it, then it takes some of the pressure off.
It is very daunting. And what a good way to look at it, that having that courage, you can be afraid, but you just keep taking the next step, don't you?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Tara, you've shared the many facets of your life, being in business and helping others, and along the way, you might have had some failures. Now, I want to ask you to tell us one of those times you just didn't get the results that you set out to achieve. Maybe there was just a whisper of discontent. Will you tell us that story just like we were sitting there next to you? And most importantly, the lessons that you learned?
Oh, let's see, failure. The biggest failure of mine was whenever I had struggled through college and really did my best in order to get a degree in finance and in business management, and I decided to take a job at a brokerage firm. I won't say the name.
Okay.
Um, and at this brokerage firm, I realized after about 3 months that it wasn't a good fit for me, but I wanted to push through it because I try to finish everything that I start.
Okay.
As I continued through the process for almost another 2 years,
Oh,
it started to eat away at my spirit. And as anyone should would know, that if you know something is a reality, that you're unhappy and you're trying to push yourself through that unhappiness, it doesn't work.
no.
Um, so I got to the point where I realized that I had worked so many days, so many nights, spent all of my money, was eating ramen noodles and SpaghettiOs as a 20-something-year-old, all doing all of these things and sacrificing for nothing because I was miserable. I was making okay money, but it wasn't exactly what I thought I was going to buy whenever the dream was sold to me. So that was probably my biggest failure because I gave up on myself. And
Uh,
whenever a young person gives up on themselves, there's a bit of that childhood glee inside of you that dies, and you have one or two choices. You can either continue to do what you're doing, which a lot of people do. They'll go down that path and they'll be looking for something else to light that fire inside of them, but nothing ever comes. So that was one path, and I tried to continue down that path, but it wasn't working. So the other side of the path was I can take all of the abilities that I have, all of the studying I've done, everything that I've worked so hard towards, and I can step onto the jaggedy, thorn-ridden, rocky mountain path and take all these risks and try to build a business for myself. Whenever I looked at that path, it was a lot scarier than the other path. So as I as I focused on both paths, trying to decide what the best option was, I looked at it as life or death. My spirit was
oh,
at stake. So if I continued on my path, my spirit would die and I would die. Or I could go down this jaggedy road here with my sword and my horse and try to trample over all these trials and tribulations and see if I actually got to the magic kingdom at the end of the road that I wanted. So I decided to take the jaggedy path, and I'm still on the jaggedy path. But one thing that that path has taught me is it doesn't matter how many successes or failures you have in life, as long as your spirit is still alive, then you're still alive and you still have another chance. So every day is another dragon to slay and another giant to tackle, and I couldn't have more fun doing anything else. So I'm very happy that I decided to choose the road less traveled.
You shared so much wisdom when you were struggling with that decision that you had to make, because if you're not happy inside, it really is like a death of you, isn't it?
It is.
Yes, so that was even though it was a hard struggle, that was very wise of you to do that, and you don't have anything to lose on the path that you're on, because you've probably toughened up your feet on those jaggedy rocks by now.
I have.
Good for you. Well, thank you for opening up and sharing that story. And whether you win or lose, you learn something. And a review every so often helps us to remember that we did learn lessons and they help us to move forward. Well, what I want to do now, Tara, is to go to the other end of the spectrum. Let's talk about the time in your journey when you had an aha moment, when you became aware of the new path you wanted to travel. Now, take us to that moment when you had that light bulb go off, and take us through the steps that you took to turn that idea into success.
I my aha moment was it was more like an aha explosion. I I went in July. I was doing a book signing with a couple of other authors, and I was getting feedback of how do you do what you do so well and things like that. So I wanted to help and encourage people. So I decided to really push towards doing that. At the beginning, some authors were interested, but they were afraid, and so on and so forth. So I decided to gear my business towards small business owners as well. And I met a really good friend of mine now, who he was in the position where he needed a book to be written, and I was in the position where I was looking to help someone write a book. So we came together, we started talking, and at the end of the day, we realized that his purpose and my purpose were exactly the same. And the way that it worked out was my purpose was to write, and his purpose was he wanted to share his trials and tribulations with the world in order to encourage people.
Oh,
And it's up until that moment, I figured that writing was my purpose, but I wasn't 100% convinced. And whenever he and I had our conversation, it just it just hit me in a way that I've never been hit before in my whole entire life that I'm doing exactly what it is I'm supposed to be doing, and everything in the universe started aligning themselves with everything that I needed or wanted for my projects. And I knew at that moment that no matter what happened, I was doing what I was supposed to be doing in this life. And everyone who's coming to me who needs help with their book projects, we're connected and intertwined in a way that I didn't even think was possible. So that was my biggest aha moment, and knowing that I'm fulfilling my purpose on a daily basis, and there's no one that can take that away from me.
well, how exciting. And you described that so well, how you really did have that aha moment and you know that you're in the right place. Good for you. Everybody doesn't have that much of a experience where they're so positive, and that has to give you the courage that you need just when if things get a little rough, that you just know you're supposed to be there and you just keep going forward, don't you?
I do. I definitely take every day at a time. I'm the type of person who likes to plan super far in advance. That's not an option right now. So I've learned to understand that and to cope with it. But being able to know that every single day, everything is taken care of for me, either by the kindness of a stranger or clients blessing me in one way, shape, or form, I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing and everything else is going to work out, even if
Oh,
I don't have to try to make it work.
right. Well, good for you. That's very inspiring. Well, Tara, now I'm going to ask you to bring us to the present time and to share your proudest entrepreneurial moment.
My proudest entrepreneurial moment was when I decided that in 2015, I'm going to make it my year. I'm going to really set some pretty lofty goals for myself, not outrageous goals, but I want to push myself to do better.
Okay.
And that brings me a lot of happiness because usually whenever I sit down to make goals, it's something like, oh, I want to buy a new car, or I want to, be able to go on a trip or something like that. My 2015 goals are how many people can I bless? How many books can I help be put out into the world? How many, things can I do to bless other people, whether it's through community service or donating my time or money to an organization, things like that. My goals have changed 100% since I become an entrepreneur, and it makes me excited to think of what the limits are going to be next year.
Well, that really is a very impressive list of goals that you have, and you've given them a lot of thought, and that has to come from the inspirations that you get from helping other people that you've already helped, and you can see what the benefits of that is, and that is that the background, the base for these goals.
It is. I have three pillars to my business. The first pillar is my purpose, which is to write books. My passion is to empower people. And then my third is a give back. And right now I'm focusing on saving the whales, which I'll continue to do that.
Okay.
But I wanted to expand and to be able to help other people because there have been so many superstars in my life this entire year who've helped me get exactly what it is that I need in order to keep my business going forward. So I'd rather bestow all the kindness unto others and to organizations that are help promoting that type of change as well.
Oh, wow. Well, very impressive. Thank you for sharing that. And your expertise and dedication certainly does help other people. And people want to hear the stories like yours, how you are growing and making your business a success. And would you tell us one thing that is really exciting in your business right now?
One thing that's really exciting in my business is I have a client who, whenever his book is finished, we're going to get him on Oprah.
Really?
We're working that through and getting through the channels that we need to in order to make that happen. And as a young person, to be able to get someone all the way to that process where they see that it is a strong possibility is just it just lights up my world to
Oh,
know that I have the ability to help people in that way.
I can just imagine how exciting that is. And that just has to inspire you every day, doesn't it?
It does quite a
Oh,
bit.
wonderful. Well, Tara, what's the best business advice you have ever received?
Oh, the best business advice I've ever received is to stop quote unquote efforting. A lot of business owners, especially in my shoes where they're new business owners, we set very lofty goals to go out there and to get 100 prospects or 10 new business partners, so on and so forth. But whenever you really understand what your passion, your purpose is, then the universe will set everything up for you, and you don't have to work as hard. So work on creating relationships with people and your business will be great.
Oh, you are so wise for such a young lady. Good for you. Keep it up, too. Don't lose that. That's very impressive. Well, Tara, now I'm going to ask you to share some specific ways that show how you achieved becoming such a successful entrepreneur. Does that sound like a plan?
Sure.
All right. Well, what's the vision of the future of your business?
The vision of the future of my business is to continue to go through these three, I guess, other principles. The first one is don't leave money on the table because
Hmm.
obviously it takes money. Money is a resource in order to go forward. The second is givers get. So as long as you're giving, you'll get everything you need. And the
Ah,
third one is it's not about you. It's not about how much you're struggling. It's not about how much you're putting into your business or how upset you are, so on and so forth. You have to look at everything in the context of a balance. So if your business is not performing optimally, think about exactly what one of those three things are not working.
Mm-hmm.
So either money is a problem for you, so you need to figure out another way to structure that. If you're not giving, then people aren't going to want to work with you. And if it's all about you, then it's not about your business and it's not about moving forward. So that's kind of the direction of my company is. I want to make sure that those three things are always in the forefront so that it continues to be sustainable.
Well, those are very, very impressive visions. I just marvel at how you are so wise. Good for you. Don't
Thank you.
lose that. Well, can you share one of your personal habits that you strongly believe contributes to your success?
Personal habit is as a writer, and especially with November being National, I always say it wrong, National Novel Writing Month.
Mm.
The goal is authors try to sit down and they try to write 2,000 words a day, which comes out to be 60,000 words at the end of the month. For me, if I am really dedicated and motivated, I can write up to 10,000 words a day.
Oh my goodness.
So, and I actually put that to use. I think it was last week or the week before. I went on a writer's retreat and I wrote 31,000 words in 3 days. So that definitely contributes to my success because I think of it in the terms of endurance. Even though my fingers get tired and I don't want to do it anymore, I continue to
Right.
do it because I'm very blessed to have the purpose I have and the passions that I'm able to use on a daily basis. So that's my hugest motivation is endurance and dedication and realizing it's not going to be like this forever.
Right. And you have to be in good physical shape too, don't you? To
Yes.
endure that. That endurance takes a lot of the your health habits, and that must play a big part in that endurance.
It does. You have to be cognizant about your body being a fuel source as well as a muscle. So if your body's weak, it really disables you from being able to do things. So I always looked at health and wisdom as the most important things in a person's life over financial, because it doesn't matter how much money you have, you can't make money if you're sick.
Right. And you can't enjoy it if you're sick.
Right.
Yeah, very good. Well, Tara, can you share one of your personal habits that you strongly believe contributes to your success?
Yeah, personal habit would be to set a schedule, even if you don't know how to follow it. Get in the habit, get into the routine of getting a piece of paper or doing it electronically and writing down exactly what it is that you're going to do, because that's also a part of endurance, is doing things whenever you don't want to do them.
Oh, that is a big part of endurance. Do you have an internet resource like Evernote or an app which helps your efficiency to share with our listeners and storytellers? You will find the links to these sites in the show notes of today's episode at bizstoryshared.com/Tara Majuta. So back to to the question.
I'm a bit of a dinosaur in the sense that I usually write everything down on paper. Um, but I know one of the applications that's really good, and this actually comes from my financial side. I always try to track my business and make sure that financially it's stable. So there's this cute little app, and let me get my phone so I can tell you exactly what it's called.
Okay.
I think it's called envelopes, but it's this cute little envelope icon. Let's see, where is it? Up there it is. Okay. I'm sorry, it's called Good Budget. And what this little app does is it creates little envelopes for you where you can fill each envelope with a certain amount of money. And then as you're going out and you're purchasing things, you can actually see it deduct from certain parts of your budget. So
Oh.
I think it's super cute because the little envelope frowns at you whenever you spend money, and it smiles at you whenever you've done good and you've found another way to get what you need without having to actually go out there and spend $1 on it. So I like it because it's cute and it's playful, and it also teaches you a valuable lesson of, as I'm out doing my things for my business. I have X amount of money. How am I going to further my business without spending a ton on
Right.
that? and that sharpens your mind and it makes you more creative as a business owner, as a person, because you look at other ways to make a connection with somebody or create a relationship with somebody, maybe to share lunch, as
Okay.
opposed to, going out and spending all this money on a really nice steakhouse and you're spending $30. But if you were to go with someone and just order appetizers and, hey, why don't we share appetizers, so that way we're communicating and we're not focused on eating the whole entire time.
Right.
And I actually can connect with you and get to know you. And it feels good to share something with someone as opposed to secluding yourself and being like, well, this is my steak, I'm going to eat this. And then your your balance in your bank account's going down because it's quote unquote about you again.
Right.
So little things like that is definitely the number one thing that I try to focus on in my business, is looking at money as a resource, but not a necessity.
That's a very good example. And sharing the appetizers, I like that too. Well, would you describe for us who are perfect referrals for your business? Those people that the listeners know who might benefit from doing business with you.
A perfect referral for me is any author who is anywhere in the writing process that's looking for direction. I can definitely help them structure their ideas and their goals into something attainable, as well as subject matter experts in their field. So whether they're entrepreneurs or small business owners, anyone who has knowledge that they want to share with the world on what it is that they're good at. I definitely love to turn that into a book that they can use as a takeaway as they're out there making connections with people.
Oh, those are very good examples. Well, Tara, if you could recommend just one book to our listeners, what would it be?
Um,
And it's okay to recommend your book.
well, obviously, if you want to read a really awesome story, there's The Fascinating Files of Claudia Brodstad. And it's a murder mystery, and I find that a lot of people who read it, some of them don't like murder mysteries, but they like my book. So
Good.
that says something. The other book that I would definitely recommend, and this is for anybody, whether you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or just a person, there's a book called The 10 Life Laws by Dr. Phil, and it talks about how there's different laws and you have to follow those if you want to be successful. And that's whether or not you're looking to better your life or better your business, better your relationship, things like that. I read it probably about 8 years ago, and I still refer to some of those
Really?
philosophies on a regular basis.
Well, that's a very interesting. Well, I've truly enjoyed listening to your journey and the stories that you shared. So, will you please share one more time how we can get in touch with you and any other resource that you want us to have, and then we'll say goodbye.
I'm sure. So if you want to get in touch with me, feel free to send me an email. My email address is taramahudabooks@gmail.com. You can also go to my website, which is taramahudabooks.com. Or if you want to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or any of the Instagrams, things like that, I'm available on social media that way under the name Tara Majuta Books.
All right. Well, again, thank you for being so generous with your time, expertise, and your experiences and your knowledge too. It was fun hearing you. It was enlightening hearing you. Okay, listeners, you can find links to this resource and everything that we've been chatting about in today's episode by going to bizstorieshared.com, Tara Majuta. Thank you very much, Tara. It was a joy.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Give the storyteller some love. Go to bizstorieshared.com, click on the iTunes button, and give a 5-star review. Thanks.